Hello and welcome once again to Boom 11 Live. And today we're going to be talking about football. So I'll be taking over the anchoring duties, and I have with me Abel. Before we do begin, though, let's talk about Boom 11, the fantasy app. Make sure you guys download it on Apple App Store and Google Play Store because it is free of cost. It's a risk-free fantasy experience, as you all know. But Abel, let's talk about how football has been this year, right? I mean, let's keep it a little low key today, not focus on much or anything specific as such. But let's talk about football overall. This was a World Cup year, and we were through with all of y'all in this ride. The highs and lows of the World Cup, and not to forget, this was the first time that the World Cup was being played in the middle of a footballing season. It did impact the club football, but now, in hindsight, do you reckon all those fears were not a little bit, exaggerated, or all those fears did not actually materialize? Or
Firstly, good to be back to be talking about football. But as you rightly mentioned, it was in a year which started with a lot of skepticism, in my opinion, at least, because I was unsure as to how the World Cup is going to be fitted and right in between a footballing season. Because I've never seen that happen previously. You have seen a lot of other things happen. For example, you've seen international breaks go on. You've seen Nations League happen, but to have a month-long World Cup in between a grueling season of football, because it was a World Cup year, you also saw Champions League scheduling become a lot more tighter. Players were playing close to 3 matches in 7 days. That's a lot of matches, to be very honest. And in between that, you have to play for a continuous period of 3 months, and then go for a World Cup, then come back and perform at your absolute peak over a period of 5 to 6 or 7 games. If you go on to play at your best, you get to play 7 games. Also, 3 to 4 games at your best, or even five at times, and it's a different ball. It's a different game altogether in the World Cup because the intensity is different. The kind of performance you put out in the World Cup is totally different to what you can give it to the club level, because you go that extra mile in the World Cup when it comes to your fitness, when it comes to everything.
yeah,
So there were a lot of skepticism in my mind, to be honest, regarding player fitness, regarding how it is going to really impact club football. So far, at least after the club football has resumed slightly, at least in England, I don't see a lot has happened. But even in France, the club football has resumed. You saw some hangama take place there in France and also in England. It's been quick fire resumption of club football. And you've really adapted to it, but at the same time, a lot of fans at least feel that there's a lot of overconsumption of sport at this time, because everybody
yeah.
were extremely invested into that World Cup over a period of 1 month. Most of them watched 3 games a day or 4 games a day through the course of 12 hours period. It went for 1 month, and then they had to switch. Then they had to again come back to club football. It can be slightly grueling, but if you have a particular team to follow, it's slightly more easier to just follow one team and watch just their match through the course of the week, or maybe in the course of 2 weeks time. But if you want to follow all the games, it can be really hard. So for me personally, at least, it's been a mellow resumption into the club football. I still don't have the feel like, oh, club football is back as such. Just it still doesn't get me, because I'm still in a hangover of World Cup, is what I believe at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of action that we saw in the World Cup, people, it is hard not to, really feel a little let down with the football that happens right now because league football is for the long term and players don't really exert themselves the way they do at the World Cup. And you don't see that action happen most often than not. Fair enough in that, but let's talk about some of the things that, I mean, obviously, now that the World Cup is back, PSG is back. Obviously, I think Messi is not joined the team yet, but we did have Neymar and what do you say, Mbappe come back. Mbappe obviously scoring that penalty, and but now Neymar getting sent off. Right, there's a controversy surrounding it on whether he took that red card on purpose so that he can skip the match that is going to happen tomorrow. What do you think of that? Do you think it's a typical Neymar sort of behavior, or do you reckon there's not much credit to it?
Yeah, I personally think so. It's a typical Neymar kind of behavior, but I still do not know. We do not know his intention, but to be seeing that, I think it's either a very smart thing by getting the red card. So now he can possibly chill on that New Year's Day. I think they have a game on 1st of January. PSG are traveling away on 1st of January, and they have a game there. So he'll be at home watching that game and enjoying his New Year's Eve, going for a long night party now, assuring that he doesn't even have to turn up to the team or for their training for that game. So he can pretty much have a very good time in Paris, just chilling around or having a best of time for New Year's and do not have to worry about that game on New Year's. So that's a very typical Neymar thing to do because he's already had that controversy of skipping February month because of his sister's birthday every year. So this is something on similar lanes, but I hope it is not on similar lanes because it's just ridiculous if he has gone on to do that with that intention.
Yeah, I mean, we have to say that, we have to say that now that PSG is also sitting in a comfortable position. They are 8 points ahead of Lens. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm a bit my French is not as good as my English, but they are sitting. But that's a very good story right there. A team which is not something you're very used to. Able sitting on the second spot. They are right now 37 points, 11 wins and 11 wins, 4 draws and 1 loss in the 16 matches. Do you think this team has what it takes to really repeat what we saw with Nice, for instance?
I mean, it's very tough to be honest. Even compete with PSG in any competition,
I
especially
mean,
when it comes to
yeah,
French football. It's very very hard to compete against PSG. That's just because of the kind of superpower PSG has become. And now look at the players they have in PSG, right? It's the kind of the kind of disparity between teams is huge, especially
yeah,
within PSG and others in that particular league. Hence, that domination what you see from PSG. Even if I have to compare with Bundesliga and Ligue 1, I feel Ligue 1 has a bigger disparity even than Bundesliga because even said having said that, you have seen teams like Monaco win in Ligue 1, but in Bundesliga over the last 10 years we've seen no other winner. But at least I feel in terms of quality of players which are involved in other teams, I still think there is a possibility of uh, another team in Bundesliga winning it over the next 5 years at least compared to what might not happen in PSG because PSG are on that dangerous run of actually having great acquisitions. They are trying to have great acquisitions. They are trying to buy almost every young player in the Europe. Everybody they feel is right. They're just getting them on board, and I just feel that squad is at this moment very overcrowded. Just look at that squad, right? They have Renato Sanchez. They've got Fabian Ruiz sitting on the bench. I do
yeah.
not even know why are they even playing for that team. Understand? I don't know why did they even go to that team. Understanding that they might not even get a chance. Carlos Soler, for example, he's sitting on the bench. I mean, these guys can be starters in any other team in Europe, but then they are in PSG in a very overcrowded team, and they have no option other than to just sit there and watch others play. And also look at like Donnarumma and Kylian Navas are fighting for a spot as well. There is a lot of extra occupancy in that squad. I think players at least should tell themselves that we need a loan move out of this team so that they can at least get a reprieve
Hmm.
and come back into the team maybe at the end of a loan stint wherever in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. Another story that really came out this week, Abel, was your favorite as a citizen, Erling Haaland, continuing from where he left off. Just another brilliant day for Manchester City all around. But Haaland now has a lot to cover up, right? I mean, there is. I think obviously people are saying that Messi and Lewandowski himself went out to say that Messi is at the pole position for Ballon d'Or, but two people who are very close to Messi, you would say, is Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe. Because even if Kylian Mbappe is supposed to have a great season ahead, he isn't far away from Messi, right? And now Erling Haaland as well. He scored one more goal at the end of this week. Now he scored one more goal than the entire Chelsea team. So that's how amazing he's been. How far do you think he's going to take this Manchester City team along? Because he's perfectly fit there, isn't it?
I mean, to be very honest, he's playing on a whole nother level at this point. I have to be very honest about that. If I've seen a player go on to have that kind of season, it's the last time I saw that kind of was with Ronaldo in his prime or when Messi when he scored the 91 goals that year. That was I think it was 2012 where he scored 91 goals. He's going at a very similar pace. I don't think he'll be able to score 91 as such because that was some ridiculous year from Messi where he went on to score 91 goals in that calendar year. I don't think anybody will ever be able to do it. Yeah, talking about that, just once again, just a special mention or like condolences to Pele,
Yeah.
because last time around when someone did the highest number of goals in a year was Pele back in 1959, where he scored 127 goals for Santos, and at the age of 18 he did that. So condolences to him. It's a huge loss for the footballing world. I think it's possibly the worst way to end the new year. We remember all good things, but
Yeah.
this year has ended in the worst possible way for Pele as well. Because I personally think he's possibly one of the greatest to have ever played the game, to win 3 World Cups, to score a brace in the World Cup final in in when you were like 18 years old, and then when you were 17 years old, and to win your second World Cup when you were 21, and actually win three is a huge thing in itself. And he also scored a hat trick in his debut World Cup when he was 17
Yeah.
against France. So that there's something about him. There was something magical about this player, and I think it's a huge loss for the footballing world and the entire fraternity. I don't think you'll ever see a player like Pele. We just spoke about how Neymar equalized Pele's record in terms of goal scoring ability, but for Pele, he won three World Cups by scoring 77 goals, and that's a massive thing. And he has scored 1,283 goals in his career. That's crazy
Hmm.
sad. It's like him playing on whole another level in a career mode or something like that. So he is a player of a whole. Um, he was from another dimension. You can say you talk about Messi, you talk about Ronaldo. I think Pele and Maradona will be forever remembered to be two of the benchmark players. Everybody, when you talk about the history of football, you talk about Pele and you talk about Maradona because they set benchmark way too high. Everybody had to follow. This generation definitely you had Messi and Ronaldo, but then for them to go out there and achieve something for countries like they did, I think it's just fantastic because you saw how hard it was for Messi to get one World Cup, and there's a man who
Yeah.
won three, and that's a crazy stat to be very honest.
Yeah, I mean, he just was football's first ever superstar because people. I mean, football was obviously there in those areas, where football has been, and it was great. It was a great sport. People followed it in Europe, South America, but Pele is probably the first one who became the superstar, who took football to many places. I mean, he played for New York Cosmos, if I'm not wrong, when initially the football league, a proper league, it started off in America, and I think he was playing for 1 million per year or something like that. I'm not wrong. If I'm not wrong. That was his contract. It was pretty big. This 1974 I'm talking about, guys. So that's how huge he was once upon a time. And I mean, even if people don't know football as such, or people don't know which team Messi plays for or which team Ronaldo plays for, you will find not many people in the world are unaware of who Pele is, and that just shows how big of a player he was and how great of a player he was. So he'll be missed. I think a huge loss for football and sporting fraternity all over. I think many will be inspired by him. Yeah, I mean, both of us here at Boom 11 is really will remember the kind of memories that he gave us. The kind of player he was and what he means to football. Really.
Yeah, I mean, we at least were very unfortunate that we couldn't actually witness some of the
Yeah.
glory years. He retired 1977, way before we were even born. And we were also unlucky that we couldn't witness Maradona play. But nonetheless,
Right.
we're still talking about him. And it's the greatest thing about Pele, right? Even what we had like three generation past Pele has ever played the game, and we're still talking about him. We're still remembering him. We're still recognizing the greatness of that man. So that's what Pele was at the age of 82 when he passed away. People are still going to remember him. I think the next generation of kids are also going to talk about Pele because he's going to be remembered in the history books whatever for what he's achieved, and that's the greatness of the man. Now people say you have to remember once you're gone, and he has done everything possible for the next five generations to remember what the kind of player he was because of what he's achieved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, huge loss for the footballing fraternity overall. But I mean, may rest in peace. My heart does go out to his family members and his loved ones who are grieving right now. Let's. I think it's going to be very difficult to move on, but let's talk about some other topics as well. Let's talk about Man United even now. I mean, they and probably Liverpool as well, because the two thing that connects them is one name, Cody Gakpo. He's gone to PSV. I mean, from PSV to Liverpool now. I think the range is somewhere between 37 million to 50 million. From what we are hearing as of now, he's confirmed his move. They needed a player, right? Liverpool, especially in that area where now that Sadio Mane is off, they will be looking for a replacement for him. Darwin Nunez, another player who's really, not really impressible, but I was hearing Thierry Henry talk about him, and what he said really struck a chord with me. What he said is, it seems to him, at least, and according to his analysis, that Darwin Nunez is trying to dazzle the Anfield crowd, become the crowd favorite. And you saw some of the shots that he took, right? He was trying to take the first up volley right into the goalkeeper. He seemed like he wanted to score a magnificent blockbuster goal, and he ended up really making those silly errors or trying a little too hard. And you reckon now he needs a little bit of confidence, scores one or two goals, gets a little comfortable in front of the goal because he still was making a lot of good runs. We did speak about him in that live that we were doing during the match and post the match as well. But how do you reckon now Cody Gakpo coming into this team really help them gel as a unit? Do you reckon he's a great addition for this team? I think Noah
Yes,
Van
he
Meekeren.
is. Okay, should I take this question, Jared? How is
Yeah,
Gakpo going to?
this is pretty much the same point. Yeah.
Yeah, so Habib, firstly, Noah, it's a very good question as to whether we're going to do a tactical breakdown on him. If I want, I can bring a tactical board, but then it's going to be a slight bit of work. I'm a little lazy to do it, so I'm just not going to
And
do
we
it
are
right
running
now.
late. We have to sit and work
Yeah,
on
I'm a
it
little lazy.
in
It's
minutes
the
of the
year
line.
end, man. I mean, it's been 3 months of
Maybe
grueling
once the transfer
campaign.
window is done, guys. If you are really into it, once the transfer window is done, we can bring in some of the best transfer players have been shifted, and we can make it maybe do a tactical breakdown on how they'll be employed by their managers. So not just Cody Gakpo, because we are hearing that Man United are looking for a striker. Chelsea will be making a lot of moves this time around, and not just there. Outside the Premier League, you have Real Madrid who are looking for Jude Bellingham. I hear there's an offer of 100 million now on the table for Dortmund. I think Helga would be happy. I think she seems to be a supporter for Dortmund. Because I mean, I don't know if she'll be happy because they are going to be saying goodbye to their club captain if Jude Bellingham decides to move to Real Madrid. And there are also rumors that they are interested in Alfonso Davies of Bayern Munich as well. So a lot of huge transfer business will be coming up in the January transfer window. So maybe once the January transfer window settles down, me and Abel will be coming back with some tactical breakdown, because I think that's when we'll really see the bigger picture, because Liverpool might still be interested in a few others.
Yeah, but I think we'll still talk about how Cody Gakpo is going to fit into the
Yeah, of
system
course,
because
without a
I
tactical
think it's really
board for
relevant for
now.
us to talk about it right now because you never know, right? Because with the number of injuries it's been taking up with Liverpool, you never know if Cody Gakpo is going to get injured right away after he's going to come into the Liverpool team. But to be talking about Cody Gakpo, Noah, I personally think he's a very good addition into this team. Let's look at what he really brings into the system, right? And how is he going to be fitting into the system? Now, if you understand now with Liverpool, Luis Diaz is possibly out till March. Firmino is going to be out till Feb, and also Jota till maybe Feb end or maybe even March. So there's a lot of issues there at this point when it comes to players fitting into the system. So that's where I personally think someone like Cody Gakpo will may have to play in the left wing role for a meanwhile, and he might have to start playing in the left wing because of the very factor that Nunes is going to start centrally, and then Cody Gakpo, even for PSV, I know when you have seen him play from a left wing position where he cuts in, where he is much more comfortable playing on the left hand side and then try to cut in. But for me, the best way to possibly use Cody Gakpo for me will be to play him as a centre forward. Uh, I think you won't get a better option than to play Cody Gakpo in the centre forward region, primarily because of two reasons. If you look at his abilities off the ball, or when you look at his abilities as creative option, if you are playing on the wings and if you're going to stay wide, his crossing ability to put up a cross in, it's very minimal. I think you don't have a lot of. He does not have that ability to cross in. That's one of the things. When it comes to dribbling, he's not a Vinicius Junior or Rafinha. He does not have the trickery to really dribble two, three defenders, cut inside, and put in a ball in. So that's where he kind of falls behind as a as a winger for me. But when it comes to using him in terms of his creativity as a number 10, where I thought Van Hal used him, it just did not make any sense to me. He's not your Odegaard, or he's not someone who can really go out there and create a lot for you. There are limitations for Cody Gakpo when it comes to that. He's got the height as an advantage, but he's very poor in heading. So I've already highlighted the areas where he really has to improve. Someone like Cody Gakpo. So, but to be talking about how he's going to really fit into the system, if he's going to play on the left hand region, right? If Cody Gakpo is going to play on the left for Liverpool, I really want him to play cut in more often. But provided how is he going to come up against a physicality of English Premier League? Because we've seen with players like Jadon Sancho, we've seen with Timo Werner, or Kai Havertz, for example, they've really struggled when it comes to taking one-on-ones with English defenders because physicality is totally different, especially in the English Premier League, and it can really put you in a lot of trouble. Number two,
Hmm.
when it comes to his ability to really dribble and trickery, as I already mentioned, is very minimal. His crossing ability is not the best. He's as maybe as good as a Rashford. Now you can give him at a very similar player profile like Rashford. He's got similar height, similar pace. I still would want to see him in a centre forward role because that's what I think
Yeah.
should be used by Jurgen Klopp. Maybe Darwin Nunes can move on the left hand side. So that's about it when it comes to Cody Gakpo and how he's going to possibly fit into the Liverpool system.
For now, able Cody Gakpo is not a bad addition to this team. But what happens when once Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota comes back from their injury spells? Then do you reckon this Cody Gakpo will just become an extra player in this team, especially given the fact that maybe then you might also see, as you said, he might shift to that central forward role, compete with Darwin Nunes.
Possible. There's a possibility of that happening because of the fact that there is no centre forward for Liverpool at this point, and they're I mean, there is with Darwin Nunes, but he's not really scoring goals. He's been missing opportunities after opportunities in front of the goal. That's maybe because he's very underconfident, and I think that's a very similar issue which Timo Werner faced. That's a very similar issue which Lukaku faced. A very similar issue even Lautaro Martinez faced through the course of the World Cup as well. Very underconfident as a striker. No matter how big a name you are, you can look very vulnerable in front of the goal. And
Yeah.
that's a very similar issue which has been dealt by him at this point. Maybe once Jota comes back, maybe once Luis Diaz comes back, I like to see Cody Gakpo play more centrally. Now you have spent the amount of money with Darwin Nunes. You have spent crazy amount of money in Darwin Nunes. So that's a big accusation, right? They've brought in Darwin Nunes for the very reason that he can do a job for them maybe in the long term, and he is capable of doing that. So it's his first season. I don't think we should jump the gun way too early in terms of judging the player he is. We should give him some bit of time at least before taking a call on whether it was a successful signing or not. Because the issue is that his comparison is straight up with Erling Haaland. It's very tough to you know actually even to compete with Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland has scored 20
Yeah.
goals in the Premier League. It's the fastest ever to score 20 goals. I think
Yeah.
that's a season. He's owning the season, and that's a season which a player will have once in his entire career. Maybe Erling Haaland might go on to do it time and time again, but the fact is that these are the kind of seasons which a player will have once in his career. So you can't really go out there and compare Darwin Nunes with Erling Haaland because Erling Haaland is in a system where he's going to be feeded balls by Kevin De Bruyne, by Bernardo Silva, by Mahrez, by Foden, time and time again. All and his clinical ability in front of the goal is way too good as well. And he's a confident young chap compared to Darwin Nunes. Darwin Nunes has got his limitations, especially when it comes to him being much more direct, him trying to really, make those things happen. But to be very honest, Darwin Nunes, the kind of impact he has had in every game, just taking over the goal scoring ability, has been phenomenal. Every time Darwin Nunes has been on the pitch, there's something happening for them. He's been there to make those runs and he's been there to create those 1-2s which he has been able to create with Salah. I mean, those are really good to see. And those things should be measured by Jurgen Klopp as well. And I think as football fans or as football spectators, what happens with us is that we judge players just based on the stats, what they're giving, assists, goals,
Hmm.
but the impact they create on a game, just not on numbers in itself, is massive. That's why you find Grealish to be having a bad season, but whereas I feel he's been having an excellent season so far. I know Grealish had a very good game recently against Leeds, but the fact is that Grealish's numbers when it comes to stats and goals won't say the kind of impact he's been able to create for the City team this season. So that's a very similar role which Darwin Nunes has also been having for this Liverpool side, and I think he will only progress from here on. And having Cody Gakpo in a particular team will give him that extra bit of competition that he'll have to he'll have to really perform one notch higher now because there is a possibility of Cody Gakpo being and coming into the centre forward role as well. And let's see how things go because with Cody Gakpo as well, it's going to be his first major move in English Premier League. Whatever we've seen was in just 4 games in the World Cup. He was very impressive there as well, but then a World Cup and a Premier League is a totally different ball game because you really have to. I don't think there's World Cup tax as such, but the fact is that he really have to play well. And I like the way his off the ball ability is. His defensive work rate is top notch for me. Hence he's also preferred by Jurgen Klopp because Liverpool's one of the major criteria is you should be able to press well off the ball and your off the ball ability should be top notch. And Cody Gakpo really has really filled that criteria to the best of extent in my opinion.
I think for me, I'll agree with you. I just feel Cody Gakpo is a lot more lethal in front of the goal. As you mentioned, he needs a lot of work, but then he is a young kid, and I think is in this developmental stage. yeah, I mean, 23 years old, probably in this Liverpool team, he will be playing as a, he will probably compete with Darwin Nunes for that centre forward role once Diogo Jota and Luis Diaz come back to this team. What do you reckon about about Man United now? I was a bit surprised that they went so much after Cody Gakpo, and the reason I say that, I know a lot of Man United fans wanted him in the team, but if you just look at their squad, they've got so many left wingers. I mean, they've got Jadon Sancho, they've got Anthony Elanga, they've got Alejandro Garnacho. These are players, and I mean, Marcus Rashford is not playing centrally for them, but Anthony Elanga, I know Jadon Sancho is probably even going through a little bit of a tough period in his career. He's not training with the Man United team as of now. Anthony Elanga and Alejandro Garnacho have shown such promise, and I really think they have the potential to be a left winger for Man United in the long run. So, do you think, Abel, you were a bit surprised about Eric Ten Hag pushing so hard for Cody Gakpo? I think he is facing a little bit of an issue. As well, for me, I think while I wait for Abel, yeah, I think for me it is definitely settled. For me, it's always been Messi, and I'll tell you why. It's not for a footballing reason. I just associate a lot more with him. Because I mean, I don't know how people will take it, but when you look at Messi, you don't see an athlete, or at least when he was his younger self, you not think of him as a naturally born athlete, but he has that skill to dazzle you, and he's done so much as a footballer that people did not expect any footballer to do, let alone someone who's of the stature of Messi. Initially, when you look at him and you don't know the background of how good a player he is, and this World Cup, it's just a story that was written in the stars, and we spoke about it for so long. For so many times we spoke about it, that if it's going to be Messi's year, if he does score a goal, if he does not score, if he does get a win in this World Cup, if he goes ahead and lifts the World Cup for Argentina, it's going to be a huge step for him to reach onto that stardom, onto that legendary status. And now, two things, right, for me as well. One thing is obviously Ronaldo's falling stocks as such, because he's not had a great 2 years. Even in Man United, when he did do well, you would say Man United stats wise, for me, he was never a fit in that squad. And that's not his fault. That's not Man United's fault, really, because there's a lot you can go against Man United management, and there's a lot you can go against the Glazer family and what has happened in the past and how they've managed this club. But I don't think what happened with Ronaldo is exactly their fault, because it is something that, for me, I feel they shouldn't have really gone to Ronaldo. I somewhat agree with what, even though he got a lot of criticism, I somewhat agree with what Wayne Rooney said. Man United is a club which should have looked forward, which should have looked ahead of their time, seen players, who can be the future. In fact, they did have opportunity to sign level like Cody Gakpo a long time back, but they did not go for it. So I think that's the kind of decision making that has let Man United down. It's time they go look at the future. Ronaldo is a great player, but his time is really. Tanya, I think I don't know if you're unhappy seeing me, but it's just not me. But we'll be back in a few minutes. But yeah, for me, I feel Man United. What happened with Ronaldo and Man United is really. It was just Ronaldo was not a good fit in that system. For me, Ronaldo would have done a great job if he had gone to the place like Bayern Munich, because they needed a striker who can score goals with the chances that they create after Lewandowski was gone. But to be honest, at this point in time, I felt it was not their fault. And so for me now, they should look at some of the youngsters that they have. Jadon Sancho, I think he's still got it in him to do well. It's just that price tag pressure that is on him, because he is a talented player. And so is Anthony Elanga, Alejandro Garnacho. I feel they could be the future, and instead of maybe going outside and trying to bring in more youngsters that you have to really create and you have to invest in. I think Man United should probably invest in these players and look for these players, improve them a lot more. But so that's the reason why I feel Cody Gakpo is a much better fit in Liverpool, and maybe he saw that himself, realizing that the kind of, obviously maybe there is it's also got to do with the kind of reputation that Man United has built upon themselves. So yeah, these are the kind of things that I feel Man United should look upon, try to improve. And I think Eric Ten Hag, for me at least, in my opinion, can or is a link to developing in that sort of in that way for Man United. Maybe you will see them improve a lot more. Armando Boha Diaz, welcome once again. I think the real goat is Luka Modric. Yeah, I think he's a great player. For me, he's put Croatia on the map. Croatia is a very small country. I think, if I'm not wrong, it's the seventh smallest country. I could be wrong. But if a country that that level is now competing with some of the best teams in the World Cup on the international stage, and Luka Modric is a has a huge role in it for years and years. I mean, I was going through, and I think he was in Tottenham for at least 3 years, 27, 28, where he had not won a trophy, and then he went to Real Madrid and he just raked up a trophy cabinet. So you have to give credit to him a lot for what he's done for his country, for what he's done in this for in football in general, and he's just been a great player. And what a chap, actually, great sportsman, and someone who's a huge someone you can idolize really. I know many a times midfielders don't get the kind of credit that some of the forward players do, because the forward players are the ones who create glory moment. But he is one of the best, and for what he's done for Croatia, he'll be always remembered, and he'll also be remembered part of that OG three midfielders, that is Cruz, Casemiro, and Luka Modric. We're talking about Casemiro. He's done a great job in Man United. I mean, we just saw him in the recent match there. He did a great job, played amazing football. People were very skeptical on how he is going to fit into this team. If whether I think there was, I don't remember the pundit, but there was a great pundit who went on to say that he's just a steady Eddie. I think that was a term that was used. And once he starts playing for Manchester United, he's not going to be looking that important, but he's done a great job for them. He's created a possibility where this Man United defense is suddenly looking good. There was an issue with the Man United defense once, because they did not have a holding midfielder or a defensive midfielder. I think now with Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes and Eriksen, Casemiro is doing that job. He's doing a lot better in terms of stopping. What do you say? In terms of being that extra defensive option, and he's being able to push forward the ball onto those players who are sitting up here, is Anthony Fernandes and Rashford. So it is looking a little better for Man United in that sense, and he's done a great job there. He definitely is one of the players who's creating an impact, even though you would say that he's in a later stage of his career. His glory days are behind him, maybe, but he's just doing a great job there. Credit to, again, Eric Ten Hag, to bring him into the system and maybe give him a new purpose, give him a new life here, because Real Madrid are looking past these players, right? And you have to agree that over the years, obviously, he's done a great job for them. But now I think they are looking past with bringing in Chouameni, bringing in Kamavinga, and now they're looking at Jude Bellingham as well. So interesting how he's gotten a new life really at in Manchester United. There was a comment earlier here. It was just Carlo Fernandez who said, "Hola, ¿cómo estás? Happy New Year. Thank you so much, Carlo Fernandez." And you watch us on subtitles, so I think you want to invite us to Valencia for analysis. I have heard Valencia is a great city. Spain overall is a great country to visit. And what do you think? I've just gotten an offer from Carlo Fernandez for both of us to come to Valencia and do analysis. It's the first comment.
How is it? That's very sweet of Carlo to invite us to Valencia, and hopefully things go
Yeah.
well. Next year we will.
So far, I mean, Carlo, we are stuck in our college. We are doing law, so for a few months you will have to wait before we become free
Yeah,
agents. So
if
as to
things go well, if things go hopefully well,
we will see in Valencia.
one of us might be in Spain, or maybe two of us might be in Spain in the coming years. So
Yeah.
things go hopefully well. So let's just keep that in mind. Maybe not in Valencia, maybe, but yeah. I think I don't know what the conversation was going on. Maybe you can keep me
Yeah,
updated.
I was just
What
speaking
was
about. I was just speaking about Casemiro, Abel. How what a job he's been doing in Man United. You remember? I don't know who's a football pundit who went on to say that Casemiro was a steady Eddie, so as to speak, from Brazil, who was playing with great players, and that's why he's considered to be a great player. And in Man United, he will not be anything more than a bench warmer. I think
Mhm.
he wanted to. He did say that he will only substantiate that midfield, but he's doing a lot more now for them, isn't it?
I don't think a player simply sits on the bench and wins 5 UCL medals. He's proven it. I don't think Casemiro has to prove anything to anyone. I think he has got more medals and he's got same amount of medals as Manchester United, the club put together. So that in itself says a story of what the kind of player he is, and that's just pure disrespect. And it's just nonsense from English media to every time term a player coming out of any other league to say that they won't fit into Premier League. If he has won Champions League season and season out defeating English teams, defeating top English teams for the liking, then there is
Yeah,
something about it that you're possibly going to go down as one of the best ever center defensive midfielder of this particular era, and there is a reason behind it. He's already proven himself in Spain. He's already proven himself in Europe, and he's now proving himself in England as well. So that is the quality with which Casemiro came in. There's a reason why United spent so much amount of money on a 30-year-old center defensive mid. That was one area which they were lacking. They went behind Kamavinga last
yeah,
season. They wanted someone like Van der Beek to play that role. Van der Beek definitely was not happy to play the center defensive role. So they went behind Casemiro, no, understanding that they wanted a player of a similar profile who could do that destroyers role with the right in the middle of the park, because McTominay was never good enough to do that. With McTominay and
hmm,
Fred, you had a lot of issues. They were not comfortable on the ball. It is not like Casemiro is the best ball playing center defensive midfielder out there, but then his ball playing ability gradually went up with every season he played with Modric and Kroos, and that's something which you have to give credit to him. He improved. You could see the improvement right in front of us as every season he played for Real Madrid. And now to be talking about the kind of player profile he carried, he was a destroyer who they wanted, that security they wanted right ahead of Martinez and Varane, and he's been doing a fantastic job for them. I think
yeah,
if Manchester United go on to qualify for the top four, and if they go on to qualify in the top three, I think Casemiro will have a huge role to play. And even Europa League for like they're going to be up against Barcelona, and I think Casemiro definitely understands a thing or two about Barcelona and how to go out there and play in Camp Nou, and to how to play in these big European nights as well. I think that they'll have minor goals at this point. One is to qualify into the Europe next season and to have a
yeah,
decent success in Europa League as well. And Ten Hag has been doing a fantastic job. He's been very bold. He has really taken the bull by its horn. He has not been shy of talking to you and possibly the greatest player to ever play the game to say
yeah.
that, just you're not fitting into my system. And these are things you should take as a coach. And I think now having Granacho as well, I think I'm very keen to see his development under Ten Hag in this system, because he's an exciting prospect. Let's all be very honest about it. He's a prospect who I think has got a great ceiling limit. I do not know whether he's going to achieve it in United or if he's going to achieve it in some other club. Wherever he's going to achieve it, I'm pretty sure he's a player to watch out for. And I really hope Ten Hag has a plan for him, and especially when it comes to development, because you don't have to waste your talent like him by putting him on loan or putting him on some other team. Because I think you can still use him in United because he's got that ability, he's got that ability to go out there and win matches for you and score these crucial goals. He's not afraid. He's very confident in front of the goal. He's very confident to take on defenders one on one. So these are kind of hallmarks what you see in a very young player who you can understand that this guy can achieve big things. You saw that in Mbappe, you saw it in Haaland at a very young age. Now you're seeing Garnacho as well. Because remember, he's already compared straight up with Cristiano Ronaldo and Leo Messi at a very young age, because he plays for Argentina and he plays for United as well. So it's not easy the comparison to actually have at a very young age in your career. But then the fact is that he's going to have a huge role to play both for the national team and also for United in the coming years.
Let's one last bit about English Premier League is obviously the story that's coming out is Arsenal. We did speak about it initially as well, right? In the live we did about English Premier League starting, where Arsenal. I think there's only been one club in the history of Premier League where I think John Walker has just gone down to say that. But there's only one English team able ever since the Premier League started who has not won the Premier League after leading till up to January. After winning the league, you would say till January, not winning, at least leading the league till December. And the Gunners, as they are known, are top of the table. They're doing an incredible job under Mikel Arteta, which, who by the way, is Eric Ten Hag as well. Eric Ten Hag and Mikel Arteta both have been assistant managers to Guardiola. So at this point in time, our man Pep Guardiola is just creating managers and players. How much of an impact has he had in the footballing world? Many times it goes under notice. But let's talk about Mikel Arteta's Arsenal, right? I know they're missing Gabriel Jesus. We don't know how much of an impact that's going to cause into the next half of the tournament, so as to speak. But Wow, I mean, incredible from Arsenal, isn't it? What a turnaround.
Uh, I mean, to be very honest, Arsenal is possibly that's seen the evolution of Arsenal, right? When Arsenal, when Mikel Arteta took the job of Arsenal in 2020, I personally thought he's not the right man for the job because I have seen Mikel Arteta as the assistant coach in Manchester City. I thought he did a fantastic job under Pep there. But when it comes to him taking over Arsenal, the club was in complete turmoil after Unai Emery's departure in 2017. I thought this club really needed a manager who could really take this club to the next level, and they were searching for a lot of options. That was the factor, right? They were searching for a lot of options when it comes to after Arsene Wenger, they appointed Unai Emery and they wanted someone. When Unai Emery had the departure in 2019, I thought 2019, 2018, when was it? 2019 he had the departure, and they were looking for options who could come in and fill that job of Arsene Wenger because Arsene Wenger's standards, though Unai Emery had a couple of decent seasons there. I remember he had a decent season where he took the team to the Europa League final, and also they finished number five, just missing out in the Champions League spot by 1 point. So they had a very decent run under Unai Emery. But the very next season, when they went 7 games without a single win, and that's when they understood that Unai Emery is not the right man for the job. And Kroenke family definitely had to take a call by firing Unai Emery, and the right man they brought in was an Arsenal legend in Mikel Arteta. But when it comes to Mikel Arteta, there was a certain vibe around him that he's not the most progressive manager, or he's not a manager who's going to bring them the right results. And there was a certain term which he always used to use, which was to believe in the process and stick to the process and trust in the process, which will bring a result over a period of time. 2020 1920 season was a season which he took over, and I thought you couldn't do anything much, but they had their FA Cup success, very early success. Uh, they all had the right players to play that impressive brand of football, but he managed to play a very conservative brand of football, and he got that result in the FA Cup. Now, talking about 2020, 21, 22 season, they were very inconsistent, right? They got off to the most inconsistent. They lost to Brentford. They got walloped by City. They had possibly the worst possible start of the Premier League, and there you thought, okay, is Mikel Arteta even the right man to even take this team? I thought he's going to get sacked within maybe a couple of weeks, but then yet there was this process which Kroenke family trusted in him. That you saw the improvements gradually that season. Their off the ball ability went up, especially when the way in which they finished the season. If they had enough bench strength, I really thought they would have gotten an opportunity to play in Europe. I mean, to be playing in the Champions League is what I mean, because they missed out on a point to Tottenham Hotspur on the final day because they lost a couple of games. They lost Spurs as well towards the final weeks of that Premier League. So that was also because they did not have the bench strength to go out there and compete. They did not have the right amount of players. But you saw there were improvements, especially the off the ball ability to win the ball up the field, to have that more confidence on the ball ability to play from the back. You saw these kind of things being laid into the Arsenal team. But to be talking about this season, he got the right players. He got Gabriel Jesus, he got Martin Odegaard, he got Bukayo Saka, he got Martinelli, uh, and you had Ramsdale in the back. Then they brought back William Saliba from loan. They had Tommy Yasu, who did a decent job. Ben White to be playing the right back role. Uh, these things were used, especially to be talked about right backs playing in a much more inverted role under Mikel Arteta, very similar to what you see under Pep. Very similar to this system what you see in Barcelona as well. The DNA is very similar when you see Barcelona, Manchester City, and Arsenal, and that's something which you saw this season. You saw how Saka really stepped up, how Martinelli really stepped up, how Gabriel Jesus became a very vital player to this team. Odegaard became that creative spearhead for this team. That's something which has really helped. But then one player for me who's really impressed me the most has been Nketiah for me. Nketiah has been one of the most impressive strikers right there right now than the English Premier League. I think even his ceiling limit is extremely high. I think if you give him that time limit and if you give him that ability to grow, and now in the absence of Gabriel Jesus, he's doing a phenomenal job. I think Nketiah is going to be the player to watch out for. I think he's going to have a phenomenal end to the season, and if Arsenal is going to win the league, he's going to play a very vital role as well. I know it's very young, but it's too early to set such high expectation of a youngster. But I think he's got it in him. He's already had a couple of loan stints, but now whatever I'm seeing of Nketiah, there is something special about this kid, and I personally think Arsenal, if they can really utilize him to the best of ability, they can really find a gem in Nketiah.
Yeah, fair enough, Abel. There's another point here by Michelle who says that Lionel Scaloni is her favorite coach, and she says coach of the year. For me, yes, absolutely. Probably, if you have to, I think if for me, probably Mikel Arteta also is high up, right up there because he's done a great job with his team. But Lionel Scaloni, we spoke about him at length during the World Cup. What do you reckon about his coaching style? I mean, we've spoken time and time again, but just the way he's brought this team right to a victory. I mean, from the tweet that started a long time back where he said Lionel Messi don't go, and him being appointed as a manager, he said he's going to do whatever this team does is not going to be doing it for Messi. He, he brought the team together at that central point, which is Lionel Messi. Not easy for a manager to really do in this football in the way the football is run, but then it worked, right? And it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, to be very honest, the fact that Lionel Scaloni has won a World Cup, has won a Copa America, and has won a Finalissima, has won everything possible for Argentina, really puts him on a very high position to be the coach of the year. I think he's going to have some candidates to challenge him, but then he is in the pole position to win the coach of the year. When there's FIFA awards or when there's Ballon d'Or as well, I think he's in the pole position to win it because of the kind of achievements he's had. And we're talking about his style of coaching. I don't think there's a particular style that Scaloni. He has really experimented with every game. He's really adapted to
Yeah.
every game. There is no philosophy with Lionel Scaloni which he carries. He plays according to opposition, and he's a fantastic man
That's
manager.
dangerous, right?
So yeah.
For the opposition, I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean that's something that's fantastic ability to have in international football. That's
Yeah.
all what you need. You don't need to carry a philosophy. Then you can become extremely predictable. We've seen some of the coaches become
Mhm.
extremely predictable, and then the teams have really attacked them on that basis. But when it comes to Lionel Scaloni, with every game he played, he had a different tactics. He had different formations. He had different a personnel playing in different positions to really counter that particular game and counter that particular opposition, and that's really made him to stand apart in the World Cup. And hence you saw that very good run by Argentina, which went on to win, which helped them to win the World Cup, and which really also showed the kind of which really helped him also to come into the limelight ultimately. While Lionel
Yeah.
Scaloni has been such a good coach for them, he's been an extremely good man manager. I think we often tend to forget this particular facet when it comes to international football, because in international football you get a lot of players coming in after playing a lot of other club football, so you have to manage them. Maybe he might be a superstar in club level, but you might have to make him sit out in an international team because of the
Mhm.
demands, because of tactics, because of uh, certain way in which that particular team plays. So Lionel Scaloni has done that to perfection. For example, to not let Dybala play through the course of the tournament, or maybe to
Yeah.
uh, or even for example to bench someone like Lautaro Martinez and bring in Julian Alvarez after the second or third game. These are decisions which you really need guts to make, and also to make sure Lautaro Martinez is not feeling insecure about it, because you saw Lautaro Martinez was extremely happy with Julian Alvarez's success as Lautaro Martinez himself was having the success. So to create that brotherhood in the team was very essential, and Lionel Scaloni was able to do it alongside implementing right amount of tactics as well.
Maybe let's move on to Spain then. La Liga has just begun. I think it began yesterday itself, where we saw. I think the first match was between Atletico Madrid and yeah, it was between Atletico Madrid and Elche, and then obviously Getafe and Mallorca. Where, but for me now in this right now we're having Barcelona with a team that you really have a soft corner for, a team with Barcelona under. So as to speak, I mean, under Xavi, the Xavi ball, how do you reckon that has really progressed this season? They are having a slender 2 point lead over Real Madrid heading into the season. They both haven't are yet to play a match, and I think Real Madrid plays today. I think already it's 31st by the way, but the last day of this year. They're gonna both of them are gonna be playing today, at least in Indian time, where Barcelona is gonna be playing Espanyol, rivalry right there, and Real Madrid are going to be playing away. So two teams now. Again, that rivalry is back. You would reckon, or do you reckon still Barcelona is going to face an upstream battle really to defeat this Real Madrid team?
I mean, at this point, Barcelona is only competing majorly for La Liga, and that should be their goal, to give it all in La Liga. That's one trophy.
I
They
just
have to
stopped
go
right
step
now.
by
It's
step,
just
right?
running out. there is an update from the Celta Vigo and Sevilla game against the run of play. Celta Vigo has just scored their first goal in the 33rd minute. So I still don't know the score, who scored the goal, but yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, as I was mentioning, if you talk about the La Liga table, it's extremely tough at this point, especially when it comes to the top two teams. Real Madrid and Barcelona are neck to neck when it comes to the competition. And Barcelona at this point are only competing for the one trophy. That's going to be their complete focus on. You had to take baby steps in order to win the league or in order to actually, make an impact. You can't go out there because you were not winning anything in the last couple of years. So you can't go
Yeah.
out there and say that, oh, we're going to go out there and win the Champions League straight away under Xavi. It was going to take you time. So the first major goal is to win the La Liga and see how things go from there on. So the focus for Barcelona at this point is going to be on how they're going to perform in the league and how they're going to finish the league. So they'll have to give it all on the league because now they have a complete squad for first time under Xavi. You're going to have an injury-free squad, which means you're going to have Araujo, you're going to have Kunde, you're going to have Christensen, you're going to have Kessie, Frankie De Jong, Pedri, Gavi, everybody fit to start in the game tomorrow against Espanyol. I think it's going to be a very, very important game for Barcelona to end the year well. Now it's their first game after World Cup break as well. So important for players to come back and gel well and get going from the word go because this latter end of the second half of the season after the World Cup break is going to be the most important part. Now, whatever has happened prior to the second half is done and dusted. You were out of the Champions League, done and dusted. Now, this is like a new season in itself because how you start is going to be very, very vital because now you're on top of the table. You're clear of 2 points, and now it's about how you're going to finish it off and how you're going to really, really uh, press your pedal on the accelerator in terms of having that squad and managing the squad to the best of abilities because you have the squad. There's no more complaints as to you're having injury, you're having players who are on the sidelines. You are having an injury affected squad. Now you have complete squad in your disposal, and you're supposed to use them in the best of abilities. And I think Xavi is going to have a daunting task when it comes to winning the league. They're going to be competing as well, Madrid, right? Well, Madrid are no pushovers in the league at all. Now with their success in the last 3 years, they've really, really become the side to beat in Europe, not just in Europe, in league as well. So though Barcelona in that particular 2012 2019 they had complete dominance in the league, but now it's a reversal. They've not been able to win the league in the last 3 years. It's really coming to hurt them quite a bit. So the first task will be to win the league and see where things go from there on.
What do you reckon are going to be some of the places that Xavi is going to be looking in this winter transfer window? Do you see Barcelona being active?
I personally don't think so. Maybe if at all there's a couple of player departures, you might see some players coming in. But other than that, I personally don't see Xavi really looking at any other player. I don't think Barcelona have the funds or the financial
Yeah.
allocation to fit in any players at this point because there was also an issue with registering Gavi when it comes to his player contract extension. They had to really clear out some funds and to fit in Gavi into the squad because there was a major issue with registering him when it came to registering him after his contract renewal this particular month. They were able to find some bit of space to register him, but now to register a new player, I think it's going to be really, really tough unless you see a couple of departures happen and some of the big wage earning departures. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. What about Real Madrid? They are looking very active. A lot of rumors coming about them. I obviously told two rumors are Jude Bellingham has been heavily associated with them. There's also rumors that Alfonso Davis is a player they're looking for. So, do you reckon now with the kind of squad they already have, it is a dangerous squad? It's looking a lot better than what they did last Champions League, and they won that. Now this time around again, they're looking very strong. How do you rate them going ahead in the season now? With obviously having to also fight off that 2 point lead that Barcelona has.
I mean, they've been outstanding in the league and in both Champions Leagues as well. I know they lost a couple of points, especially when it came to them towards latter end before the World Cup break. They lost some. They lost to Real Vallecano and stuff. I thought that was pretty surprising for me because with the kind of start they had to the season, they lost to Leipzig, they lost to they lost points to Girona, they lost to Vallecano. So those few matches towards the latter end before the World Cup break really kind of affected them in not able to finish on top of the table because they remember they won the El Clasico, which was which is a thumping win over Barcelona. Barcelona was
Yeah.
nowhere there in that game in that particular fixture, because Barcelona was coming after a Champions League exit, so that was really demoralizing for them to really come back
Hmm.
into that game and focus on the league game after the Champions League shocking exit for them. That's something which I thought was not in Barcelona's hand. They were mentally distorted in that particular fixture. So Real Madrid really took the advantage and they really made sure that Barcelona was nowhere there in the fixture. They dominated Barcelona in all aspects in that particular fixture. But now to be talking about the way in which they're going to end the league, I think they've got a very strong squad to end the league. They've got players like Vinicius Junior, who's been in fantastic form. They will be really possibly having Benzema, who's now fit and available. Modric, who's had a very good World Cup. Tony Cruz, who's not played in the World Cup, so I think he's going to be fresh. And Chouameni has had a very good World Cup alongside Camavinga as well. So now, if they're going to have someone like a Jude Bellingham come in possibly in the next summer, it's only going to lay more of a base for them to shift or take this Madrid project into the next level. Now they'll be able to find replacement for every possible department. Remember, in 2017, the project started off by bringing in Vinicius Junior to look into the transition period. Now you have a Rodrigo. Now they've signed the 16-year-old Endrick. They've got Vinicius Junior. They've got Chouameni. They've got Camavinga, and Bellingham also comes in alongside Valverde, who's already part of the squad. The squad looks like a very very strong squad. Now there are also reports that
Yeah.
Alfonso Davies is also linked with this club. Now, if Alfonso Davis is going to come into this club, I think that's going to make them a complete Galactico squad of the generation. I don't think they're
Yeah.
still there to match the Galactico of the 2000s, but they did not win as well. I think this possible squad can win it as well because they've got it in
Hmm.
them, they've got the mentality in them, they've got the players in them who can really help this Real Madrid win not just one or two Champions League, many Champions League over the next decade or so, because they've really been able to have that transition in a very smooth level.
Yeah, fair enough, Abel. Let's talk about Bundesliga. Just before we go, and obviously there's this one question that I think we'll probably get to. Bundesliga isn't going to be back for some time. They are taking a long break. I think the first game is going to be Leipzig versus Bayern Munich. This is in 21st Jan, if I'm not wrong. It's a long time for them to come, but for it to happen. But look at the table. After that long, a little bit of a hiatus, Bayern Munich are back at the top of the table. They are having a 4 point lead against Freiburg, who is on second place. Leipzig is third place, but Borussia Dortmund is at the sixth spot, and something that's really surprising you, especially now that they might even lose Jude Bellingham entering into the next season.
It doesn't surprise me because Dortmund has been extremely inconsistent this season. They've had all these six losses. They've barely been able to get those wins going as well.
Uh,
Whenever
I'm
they've been
sorry
able
once
to
again,
really
Abel.
draw a game,
There has been a goal between the match between Cadiz and Almeida. Almeida scored the first goal in the 41st minute. Just an update. But yeah, you can go ahead.
you're giving me those updates like when I'm playing FIFA, right? When there's a
Yeah,
goal.
absolutely.
That's
It's
straight
been
out of
spot
FIFA,
on
man.
this report. Yeah.
Yeah, straight out there. There's a goal there in Almera. It's going right out there. No, that was a funny one, but yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but we're talking about Dortmund. They've been extremely inconsistent, to be honest. They've not had the season to really cherish upon. They've lost some. They've lost heavily as well. When they've lost heavily. Especially when it comes to them not really even standing a chance. They've not been able to draw games as well. One of the reasons that's been one of the downfalls as well. Whenever they've lost in a heavy margin. They've lost without scoring a goal. They've lost completely by getting hammered by, especially Munchen Gladbach was the last time they lost. I
Yeah.
think they got hammered 4-2 or something around that scale. They even lost. They've been in a very bad phase of run. To be very fair, they've not been able to put in or string results together. That's also primarily because they've not had a striker of Haaland's quality. Mokoko has been
Mhm.
there, and also Malin. Malin is a signing they had at the start of the season. So not Malin, Haller, Sebastian Haller. Sebastian Haller is a signing which they had at the start of the season, but he had to miss out because of medical reasons, of course. He had to undergo a tumor and everything, single thing, which I think he's recovered now, so that's a good news for them. But to be honest, that was a huge setback for them, and to entrust a lot in a 17-year-old striker. I think it's too much to ask of him. And Marco Reus getting injured as well before the World Cup was not a good sign for them. So they've not had the most consistent run. They've had patchy fail on days where they've done well. They've done really well. I remember the game in the Del Classic against Bayern Munich where they came back, equalizing it 2-2. I thought that was possibly their best performance in the entire season. And they had a very good performance against City in the Champions League as well, where they got Where it was a stalemate of game, but they really dominated City in that particular game. And Jude Bellingham had a fantastic game. So they've been able to play well in patches and in phases, not really dominate the entirety of season. And that's where I feel they're not definitely contending for top. They might contend for top four, but definitely not a title contender once again. They're way behind Bayern. Bayern has really gotten a role as well after having possibly one of the poorest starts to the season. Bayern Munich, they really come back hard, and they're on well on set to win another league. I don't know for how what the 100th consecutive time or something like that. They've been on that kind of a roll, right? In Bundesliga, you don't know when was the last time they lost a league. I think I was a baby in my nappies the last time they lost a league. So that's how consistent they've been in terms of Bundesliga. And I think Freiburg is their only opposition, but I don't think Freiburg has gotten them to really, finish the season off. Freiburg has been Freiburg has been good, but they're not going to go out there and compete against Bayern to win the league. Neither can Leipzig win.
Yeah.
Leipzig also has been extremely inconsistent in terms of their performance.
Yeah, I mean, it is not going to be easy for a team to really pick a Champions League contender to go ahead and win the Bundesliga. Let's move on to Italy. Napoli obviously having an amazing run, unbeaten, 13 wins and 2 draws in their 15 matches. They are having an 8-point lead over the next team, that is AC Milan. Juventus has made some sort a semblance of a comeback. They have won their last 5 matches. They've got 31 points. Good finish. Probably just 2 points behind AC Milan with 33 points. I think the last match that they played just before the World Cup break, I think, or very recently was, I think what wait, I mean, so yeah, I mean they were looking good. They have made a comeback. But again, let's talk about Napoli right before we begin. Uh, what a great season they are having. They're looking like a complete team, and even in the Champions League, I think they're unbeaten if I'm not wrong, Abel. So that just makes them a great first half of the season. They would have probably hated that the World Cup break came when it came.
Yeah, I mean they've been having one outstanding season. I mean they've seen Napoli come very close time and time again in the league, and they really mess it up towards the latter end of the season. But I don't think that's going to happen this time around, just because of the sheer consistency and just because of the kind of way they've played. They've been outstanding, to be very honest. They've been they've just looked like class apart when it comes to putting out the kind of performance they've had in the league, and to be unbeaten over 13 games and to really keep going from where they've left off. I think it's just sheer consistency, it just shows how good you can really look like a team. They really played as a team. It's not individual performance for me. It's been them really coming as a team. For example, I have to take out some names as well. Someone like Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, he's been outstanding for this team. Matthias Oliveira, and also Kim Min Jae. What an accusation he's been after letting go of Insigne, letting go of Koulibaly. Um, they really looked like even Mertens. They really looked like a team who was under transition. I thought it's going to take at least a couple of seasons for them to come back. But the way in which they will come back to have Labotka, to have players like Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, and also Ndombele, everybody who have stepped up, Zelensky as well for that reason. They've really stepped up in the best possible manner. They've not really looked back, to be honest. They've really played with a lot of played with a lot of grit. They played in a way which is really impressive. They've been playing some impressive brand of football. It's not like they've been able to churn results which looks kind of patchy here and there. They've been able to dominate teams and dominate teams over a consistent period of phase as well. It's just not Syria. They've been able to do that in the Champions League as well, which makes them a strong dark horse, or maybe even one of the contenders for the Champions League this season. So I don't know how far they'll be able to go in this Champions League, but I'm pretty sure they'll have a very decent run. I think you have to give some credit to Luciano Spalletti, because since he has taken over this, they really
Yeah.
had that kind of run. Now with Argentina winning the World Cup for Maradona, maybe it's like for Napoli to win the league for Maradona.
Yeah, I probably think they are at least on in the pole position, 8 points ahead. But it's going to be very interesting, Abel, because I mean, if you go through the league table, you'll see a lot of teams are huddled up together in a patch, so as to speak. Because AC Milan to Roma, I would say, are very close to each other. AC Milan on 33 points, Juventus on 31, Lazio on 30, Inter Milan on 30, Atlanta on 27, Roma on 27. very close to each other, huddled together in a cluster, you would say. So, how exciting is now Serie A going to the second half? Because this is a very close league, and we haven't seen this happen in Serie A for a long time. But now things are becoming a lot competitive. It's the rise of likes of Napoli. Both the Milan teams are looking a lot better. Lazio, Roma, Atlanta as well in the past few years, and Roma under Mourinho is looking like a good league to really watch and follow now.
I mean, there's certain amount of competition when it comes to the top six spots. All the teams are very, very closely knitted. The top eight, at least from 2 to 8, they've been very, very close in terms of points. But it can go anywhere when it comes to that top four positions. You don't know who's going to finish in top four. Anything can happen because the next half of the season is going to be very, very crucial. I think Syria is getting back on January 7th. And that's why it's going to be very interesting as well. How teams like Roma, how teams like Lazio are definitely going to kick from there on and try to compete for the top four. I still think Juventus will be able to finish in the top four because of the kind of season they had towards the start. I really thought they would really struggle to make it to the top four, but they've been able to string in few results together. And I think they put in complete focus on Syria, which is right because they understood through the midway that they're not going to really make it out of the group in the Champions League. They were really struggling, and now they're also in talks to sign Alexis McAllister, another World Cup winner, alongside Angel Di Maria in the squad. I think that they're going to have a very, very decent season. And remember, even Adrian Rabiot, for example, had a very good season with the French squad in the World Cup. So there are some players who are coming in with a lot of form, and Lahovic as well. I think he's going to have a very, very important season, especially when it comes to finishing up alongside Kostic, who was getting into some good form towards the latter end before the World Cup break. So for Juventus, it's going to be tough to regain the momentum because when they were catching the momentum, that's when the break happened. Now it's about restart once again. It's about a new
Yeah.
season altogether, starting from where you left off. It's going to be tough, but I think they should be able to make the top four. And alongside them, I think Inter Milan are in the pole position to make it because Inter Milan has got the squad to do it because they've had a decent run in Champions League. You saw it. They can pull up the
Yeah.
results. They can pull up the results against some of the big teams as well. They've got the players. I know Lautaro Martinez is not been the best of forms alongside Lukaku as well, but I still think they have a team to pull it up. And they've got Daniel Dumfries who can really come out of there. Skriniar, Brozovic, everybody. They've got players who can really, really put in a shift on a day and churn results through for the latter end of the season. And that's why I think Inter Milan. I'll put Inter Milan slightly ahead. I think it should be Napoli, AC Milan, Juventus, and Inter Milan who will possibly finish in the top four in Serie A.
I mean, absolutely. Even Rudra Pratap asks, what are the new plans for the new year? Any special plans?
No plans. No plans whatsoever. I'm not the person who will go out there and
You
party
might
out.
probably see us here only. I mean, it's the last day of the year, and we're still doing a YouTube video. So that pretty
Yeah,
much
you
shows
see
the
it.
kind of plans we
Almost
have.
every festivities we are here talking about sports. Let it be Christmas, let it
Yeah.
be New Year, let it be Eid. Every day we are here talking about sports. So, we don't have any plans, and we're pretty much the guys we have pretty much geeks who sit and watch sports whole day.
Yeah, probably you might see us in Neymar's party that's going to happen on 31st or watching the PSG match. Either way, Azil asks probably the best way to end our final football live able of this year is 2022 the year that the GOAT debate has been decided.
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much it's been decided. I don't think you don't have to really put it there's even a full stop to it. I think more Messi reached the final in itself, which was over. I mean it was about him getting that World Cup. It was I don't think World Cup really needed for the debate even to go ahead. But the fact of the matter is the kind of World Cup he had, right? It's just not him winning the World Cup. The kind of World Cup he had to win 5 marathon matches, to create the number of chances he did, to have some of the most magical moments in terms of him assisting or in terms of him scoring goals. I mean, that in itself really put to win the Golden Ball twice in a World Cup and to win the World Cup ultimately. I mean, this is enough to end the GOAT debate. And these are generational performance by a player in a World Cup, which we'll remember forever. You remember Maradona's performance in 1986? It's still there in the folklore. Very, very similarly, you'll remember Messi's 2022 performance in the
Hmm.
folklore forever.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a slight bit of Messi bias in our lives mostly, but we have to talk about Ronaldo. Abel, Cristiano Ronaldo is a name, huge name in football, and I mean, I personally am a huge. I personally think Messi is my goat, as I will say. But Ronaldo is a player who put Portugal on the map, right? Portugal has won two titles, if I'm not wrong, two or one. Two titles, even international titles, and I think both of them, or one, or it was one, right?
Yeah.
Ronaldo's won. I mean, Portugal has won one international title, and Ronaldo's the reason for it. Ronaldo is the reason why Portugal has become a force in international football.
Yeah.
Obviously, now that torch will be handed off to the likes of Joao Felix or Rafael Leao and Fernandes and all these players. But Ronaldo is really the one who started it, and so you have to give credit to him. He, if not the goat in international foot, if not the goat overall, he definitely is the goat in Portugal.
I mean, he is possibly the GOAT in international or in world football as well because he is still the leading goal scorer in international football. He's really had those moments. I mean, there is no taking away anything from what Cristiano Ronaldo has achieved over a period of time in his career and for Portugal. Look, for Cristiano Ronaldo, there was no weightage for him to take Portugal. It was everything which he achieved for Portugal was always a bonus. For Argentina and for Messi, it was a different story because you always had this baggage of winning the World Cup because of what
Yeah,
was already done by your former players and by the legends of the game in Argentina. So that was the kind of burden with which Messi was playing with. But for Cristiano Ronaldo, I thought everything which he achieved was a bonus for Portugal. With every single tournament, they were starting as contenders in itself is a huge, huge deal. Before 2004 or before 2006, they had only qualified for two World Cups, and since Ronaldo has made it to the Portugal team, they've qualified for every single World Cup. They made the semi-final once. That was the debut World Cup of Ronaldo, and they made the Euro final in 2004. They went on to play Euro final actually three times. I think two or three times. I think they played in 2004. They played in 2008, if I'm not wrong, and in 16 they won the Euro title as well. So that's how good they've been in terms of them really growing as a team in Ronaldo's tenureship, and you need to have these kind of things. You know, if I have to be very
yeah.
honest, what Ronaldo has really set, just in world football, or the way in which they've really played, right? For Portugal to even to win that 2016 Euros is a massive, massive thing. And
Right.
Portugal had that run. Portugal had the dream run, especially in 2016. I know they had some. They did not win a game until in a full time until the semi-finals. They also had some results or some really hard fought things really going their way. But other than that, uh, every single thing, whatever Ronaldo achieved in 2018, scoring that hat trick against Spain in 2016, we're taking that Portuguese team there. In 2004, maybe when Ronaldo made his debut, he had an opportunity to win the Euros, but Greece really stole the show there. Even in his debut World Cup, he could have possibly played a World Cup final as well. They made it to the semi
Mm.
final. They very, very close to playing a
Yeah.
World Cup final against Italy, and he could have possibly won it in the very first World Cup he played. So that's how close he was to winning a World Cup. So you can't take anything away from Cristiano Ronaldo from whatever he's achieved. And also remember, he never had the team to really take it to the next level,
Yeah.
or never had the kind of support alongside him. He
I
was
think the
always a
team,
player.
by the time the team came able, he was really done. He was in the twilight of his career, right? And
Yeah.
I think it was just
And
unfortunate.
unfortunately for him, and when he had a team, when everything was looking very good for them, Moroccan mayhem just happened, and it was just the
Yeah.
beauty of Morocco which really took away the entire limelight. It could have possibly been a Portugal versus Argentina final. You never know; anything could have happened in that final. So these are
Absolutely.
things which are not in your hand, and maybe Ronaldo will maybe can play or possibly can play another Euros if possible in
Yeah.
2024, which is 2 years away. Uh, but once again, it all depends on various permutations and combinations going in his way.
I mean, you have to give credit to Ronaldo because I mean he came from nothing really. You can argue that Messi. I mean, this is just me putting my opinion here, but Messi did get his opportunity at Barcelona at a very young age. Ronaldo had to come from nothing, build himself up from nothing. Remember the lanky kid that came to Man United, then he gets injured, then he builds himself up because from then on, the kind of importance he gave to fitness, what he really is, even at the age of 38, he's a fine specimen. He can still give us 90 minutes. I know he's not been the best player. He's not had good 2 years, probably the worst timing as well. Uh, And I think for me, it's decision to
But I think
leave
that's very
Madrid.
unfair to compare a 37-year-old Ronaldo with any other player in the world. Come on, man. How many of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
players have had a great career at the age of 37? In my mind,
correct.
there's nobody. There's barely anyone
Yeah.
in my mind who's really had a great career, a great season at the age of 37. So it's just unfair to be comparing a 37-year-old Ronaldo with the kind of standard he set in 2015 or 16 because that's a player at his ultimate prime. Every player towards the end of the career will have this. And that's how every player is going to end his career. There's no player at the age of 38 who's going to go out there and score 50 goals and end the season. I don't think that
I
barely
mean,
happens. Even in a FIFA game as well, your rating definitely comes down if you're playing a career mode at the age of 36, 37. So
oh, I
there's
think
no way
even
you're
if
going
I'm
to
not
match that level.
wrong, so I have played a few career modes, and the game makes you compulsorily retire at the age of 36. So,
Yeah.
so even FIFA doesn't think you can go beyond 36. I mean, not to take a dig, but if you guys have heard of this football pundit called Micah Richards, he's just 34 years old. So, just to put it into perspective,
Rooney is younger than Ronaldo. That's what I heard.
yeah, yeah, and so it's just great, you know. I won't be surprised if Ronaldo tries to, bring himself into the Portuguese team in the next World Cup at the age of 41. I won't be surprised, and I think, to be very honest, we all expect Ronaldo to turn it around, right? We still do. I know hardcore Ronaldo fans believe that he is going to turn it around, but I think I mean, there are rumors that he has done his medical in Al Nassr, even though the owner denies it. There are strong rumors that he's moving to Saudi. Nothing has really happened so far in terms of any European club showing interest in him. The January transfer window, the few weeks is going to be a nail biting time for Ronaldo fans. You'll never know where he's going to end up, but he's just been a fabulous player. He will always be remembered in footballing history. Um, yeah, I think for me that's pretty much it for us. Abel, do you want to show your wallpaper?
Maybe you can show to start off with. It's a dad.
It's
Maybe you
just
can start.
a Black Panther wallpaper. Just found it
Wow.
nice. Yeah,
What is mine? Mine is Messi lifting
it
the
had
World
to
Cup.
be. There we go. Yeah, that's my desktop wallpaper, guys. It's not my phone wallpaper. But yeah, I think
Uh,
that's pretty much our
my
wallpapers.
home screen wallpaper is this is so it's pretty much
Yeah,
that.
I think now that you've shown that, for me, it's just a coffee mug. It's just an angry coffee mug, even though I don't drink coffee really. But
Yeah.
thank you so much, guys, for joining us at that lighter note. We will end this live. But it's been a great year football wise, and obviously an amazing year
Yeah,
coming
thank you,
up.
Saloni, for that. I think
Of course,
2022 has
the
been all
pleasure is
about that.
ours. Yeah, I think now Abel doesn't have to adjust to Zaire anymore because before every single time I used to ask him a question, he used to do this, and this was his whole answering questions. Now he's tied it all up. He's brought his hair under control. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for joining us. From us, it's been a great year. Happy New Year to all of y'all. Probably we'll be back tomorrow, ruining some of your New Year plans. But thank you guys for joining us once again on this live. It's been a great year in terms of football. Obviously, in terms of cricket as well. On the other side, the flip side of things, we will be covering a lot of things happening. There is SA20 that's going to start next January. Few things that we'll be covering from there. Obviously, international cricket happening as well. And in terms of football, the action really begins. The winter transfers will be happening now in a few weeks of time. A lot of new faces. The World Cup and the impact that it's had will be shown in the winter transfer window. But thank you guys for joining us for this live. We'll be back again tomorrow, and make sure to download and play fantasy football and cricket. Also, basketball is there as well. On the Boomer 11 app, it is free of cost. You don't have to invest any money when you play those games, and it's really exciting. If you can collect enough coins, some exciting prices await you on the app. I think you have to take this, Abel. Greatest sporting moment of 2022. I think both me and Abel will say Messi lifting the World Cup. I think it's just undebatable at this point in time.
And with that, that's the end of the 2022 season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean, I
Shinwari.
just leave it there.
To each its
End
own,
of the World Cup.
Shinwari. For us, it has to be Messi winning the World Cup. yeah, guys, if you all can go ahead and comment below in our comment section your greatest sporting moment in 2022. But with that, we
It's been
leave you.
hard though. It's been a very good season. I mean, Virat Kohli's 80 odd, which he scored against Pakistan, is
For me, I
very
think
good as well.
Abel, if I have to put in terms
Nothing
of
beats
cricket,
Messi
it's that
lifting the World
one
Cup.
shot, 18.6 sixth ball, 18.5th ball,
Five and
that
it was five and
shot
six.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, of Harris Roth, that has to be my favorite. I know Shinwari won't be happy about it, but yeah.
Baba's 15 semi-final. I don't think it's even a great sporting moment, to be honest.
For him, it was able to each its
I
own.
mean, I think Pakistan into the final is a better sporting moment. Baba's 50. I mean, I think there are
So
better moments. I think
Anand says Federer's retirement. Yeah, I think we have to cover this one, right? I think for
Federer
me, it
retirement is
was.
definitely one of those. I thought Nadal crying for Federer was a very very beautiful moment in
Yeah, I think that whole.
2022. I thought there is another one as well. For me, uh, Real Madrid actually having that run in the UCL was crazy, and they gave me a bit of nightmares as a City fan. I thought Real Madrid's run in the Champions League was outstanding as a sporting moment. Just showed once again why they're one of the best teams in the history of football and club football at least. So has to be right up there in terms of a great sporting moment. But I think World Cup, when it's a World Cup year, you can't look beyond a World Cup and a win in a World Cup. So I think Messi lifting the World Cup has to be my personal sporting moment. But there are a lot of them. Uh, there are a bunch of them. If you talk about cricket, I think Virat Kohli's that innings against Pakistan was fantastic, one of the best sporting moments. Virat Kohli 71st 100 as well, because he came back after the 1,020 days draw to come back and score that 100. Or for that liking, even England actually having the dominating performance in the T20 World Cup, and to end that complete white ball cycle by winning the T20 World Cup as well. Uh, so if I have to bring different sporting moments like from different sports, yes, but ultimately to put into one, Messi lifting the World Cup, as Anat also has rightly mentioned, uh, it has to be the moment of 2022. And with that, yeah. So guys, remember that Real Madrid are taking on Valladolid in couple of hours from now on at IST 2:30 and UAE time 1 a.m. in the morning. So it's a big game for them. And remember to make your teams on Boom 11. As we already mentioned, we already gave you an outro for that, but make your teams right now on Boom 11. This is your opportunity, and absolutely free of cost to make it. And remember, there are some exciting prizes waiting for you. And also at the same time, if you really want to test your knowledge in sports and also to do the predictions, you have an option to play the Boomer Predictor, and that's where you'll have an absolute free go at testing your prediction skills and see how it goes about. Remember, we're absolutely free of cost to play, so you have zero financial risk in doing that. So, and make your teams right now, Real Madrid, Valladolid, and remember tomorrow Barcelona are back in action against Espanyol tomorrow. So there are some really exciting games for the new year, and PSG are playing on the 1st of January as well. So New Year is definitely there, but alongside the sporting action continues, and the Premier League is going to be, of course, there. Premier League action is, of course, going to be there, and in a month's time, you're also going to see Champions League back. But you're talking about cricket to shift bases. I think India are playing on Sri Lanka from January 3rd, so you can make your teams for India Sri Lanka as well. So that's about it from us. What do you think, Jaren? Have you made your team yet on Madrid versus Valladolid in the game?
Yeah, I think I'll still wait a little bit, able a few more hours to go. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how these lineups happen because a lot of Madrid players were in the World Cup. How many of them actually feature today will be interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for me. I still have to, wake up tomorrow and then see.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's about it. That's our new year, right? We are like friend of the sporting action and going to cover
Yeah,
you all the possible games.
absolutely.
We're all excited about the new year, but then the new year is another day of sporting action for us. So it's a new day of sporting action. That's for us every day. There's New Year means new action, and 3rd of January, Indian team is back in action. Where you're going to see Indian
Yeah,
T20 set up under Hardik Pandya. Also giving special and prayers to Rishabh Pant. He
absolutely.
missed
Yeah, we
out.
did forget about
There was a horrifying crash which took place in
it.
Delhi Dehradun highway. It was a life risking kind of a crash, but then By God's grace, he's out of danger. He did not have fractures as well, which is great. He's got injuries from that particular burn, and he's got injuries from that car crash, of course, because it was a bad car crash. From
It
whatever
was.
reports we are hearing, it's that he fell asleep while he was driving, and the car went on to hit a barricade, and he just missed. I don't know how long it's going to take him to come back into the field. We really hope he comes back into the cricketing field very soon. We need him. The world wants him back because he's a true entertainer of the sport, and we really hope none of you people go through these kind of accidents, because accidents are the worst possible nightmares for anybody. And Rishabh Pant,
Yeah.
seeing that CCTV footage was, and I really urge everybody not to share those images online. It's very disturbing, and whatever images you get, just don't share it online because it's just very disturbing. And I really hope you give that private space to the family and his loved ones as well as they're going through this tough period.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all very lucky that he has survived. It was a very difficult car crash for both of us. Having lost a friend in a very similar way, it was I think scary as such. And we know how it is really to be part of that whole process. And we really urge all of you all to not pass those images around. And it's not really great as well as to say, because again there's a lot of privacy there. I know he's a cricket player and a lot of people love him, but it is a tough moment for his family. And let's all hope of speedy recovery for Rishabh Pant. And I think with that, it's pretty much the end of our life. I think we've covered almost everything that we had to speak, not just football, from where we began. But thank you, Abel, once again for joining with us on the live, and thank you all for your comments, and you're really being part of our live. I think before we end the last episode of on football, we have to thank all of you all for really being with us on this journey in 2022, uh, especially throughout the Football World Cup, where we really began. We spoke. You were always there with us. You really helped us, motivated us to come in time and time again and do this live for all of you all, because at the end we are here for every one of you, and to answer your questions and to really have a discussion on this beautiful game. So thank you to all of y'all. You have really made our years in 2022, and we really hope you'll be with us in 2023 as well for the journey that awaits all of us. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys so much, and see you all next year and with a lot more sporting action. Bye bye.